Here we are. Good evening and welcome to an episode of Têkkel Talk Show. Very good evening and welcome. We had some issues just logging in and some network issues, but I really hope we're sorted out now.
I hope so too. Welcome everybody. It's going to be a lekker show tonight again, once again. Looking forward to some great chats and obviously what's lined up, within the show. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, apologies again. We are 8 minutes late, and that is not how we roll. But we do have a little bit of a technical glitch, just some network issues. It's coming and going, so just bear with us. If there is some delay on your side or maybe some buffering, it's beyond our control. But tonight, a very interesting episode. But before we get into it, Alberic, we had a very, very interesting weekend in the Swartland town called Abbotsdale. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed it as much.
That was really awesome. I had a lekker time. It was great. People were great. It was just a fantastic experience. The rugby was fantastic. But we'll talk about that next week when we highlight what happened over there. I just want to give a big shout out to Furlow and his mom and his dad and Pops. And for the lekker evening divan as well. It was lekker. I really enjoyed it. And thanks for the hospitality. We had a lekker braai afterwards. Great people, great rugby, and really awesome time. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, great to be a part of that historic rugby game in Abbotsdale. And obviously next week, Thursday, we will show you some highlights. We interacted with the coaches, some of the players. We spoke to some of the fans. So tune in next week when we show you all the highlights and what went down in the epic derby between Abbotsdale and Westbank. It was really one for the books. And without telling you who walked away with the spoils, I can tell you it went down to the wire, literally. It was an exciting rugby game, and it went down to the last minute to decide who had the bragging rights up until the second round of that fixture.
No, for sure. And just to add to that, let's say Westbank bel. Let's say net, let's say hulle wag julle by die huis. So ek sê maar net
Westbank wag julle by die huis. Dit gaan 'n epic wedstryd wees, dink ek, in Westbank. En natuurlik Furlow wat daar so weer sê Têkkel Thursday. Baie dankie Furlow aan jou en jou gesin wat die Têkkel span daar so gehost het by julle huis in Abbotsdale. Lekker gebraai, 'n bietjie rugby gesels. Natuurlik was daar wenners en was daar verloorders en ons kon nie uitgepraat raak oor die kwaliteit van rugby nie, Alberic. Op klapvlak in so 'n groot wedstryd. Ek dink die manne van beide Westbank en Abbotsdale kan hulle self 'n klop op die skouer gee. Dit was ongelooflik 'n skouspel van rugby geweest.
Yeah, brilliant rugby of top quality. I mean, we spoke about it afterwards, and again, we'll get into it next week. But just the comments that was going down about the quality of rugby that was played, and the spirit that was played in is really an advertisement for club rugby across the whole Western Cape, not just the Boland region. Well done with that. It was really, really awesome.
There we go. So next week, we want you live on the show. We're going to chat about all that went down, shifting our focus from club rugby to this weekend, obviously, United Rugby Championships. South Africa having 2 teams in the playoffs, and this Saturday it will all go down. The Stormers in Cape Town playing Ulster, a big game. Obviously, Alberic, your team in Cape Town, and because my team has been eliminated from this competition, I need to be very, very fair and say I'm going to back the Stormers with you as well. You're looking forward to the game, and obviously an early kickoff in Cape Town. You're hoping the Stormers to come good.
Yeah, obviously, Ulster also coming off a good win on that side, so they're going to be coming with some definitely some fire because they got their backs against the wall. They're going to be, always playing a away game. They'll obviously give their utmost. Stormers obviously being, the choice, when it comes to picking a team on the day. It's going to be a big game. It's going to be a massive game. I definitely see Evan Roos again making. Ek sien Evan Roos sy stem 'n bietjie dik maak weer eens teen Dwayne Vermeulen, hoop ek so. Gaan 'n groot wedstryd wees en ek dink natuurlik ook ene tussen die Bulle en Leinster. I think that's also going to be a huge game. And hopefully we can have an all SA final. It will be fantastic to see. I think it will be great for rugby, our rugby in general. We've had a big debate about the quality of rugby, versus the super rugby championship, but that's a story for another day. But so far, so good. let's hope the SA teams can bring it through.
Yeah, and we all know if the Bulls can pull off that victory
Yeah.
abroad, which will mean if the Stormers beat Ulster in Cape Town, we will have a final in Cape Town in the Cape Town Stadium in 2 weeks' time, and we're all hoping for that. But like Alberic said, it's not going to be easy for the Bulls. I think the Stormers, between the SA teams, we're probably thinking the Stormers most likely to go through. If the Bulls pull this one off, which they can do,
Yeah.
I think they've been very, very good in all competitions in playoff matches. They've struggled in this competition a bit, but they are in a playoff game now. They proved against the Sharks, whether you win by an inch or whether you win by a mile, winning is winning. And perhaps they can go out there and beat a very, very good Leinster side, who I believe, if they beat the Bulls, will be the favorite to win the competition. So it's all to play for, and we're hoping the South African franchises, they really go out and try and pull this through, because no one, or very little, myself included, we didn't give them much of a chance of getting to the playoff games. They are in the semi-final now, and if they do get to the final, who knows what can happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be huge. And the Bulls obviously have a point to prove. They, the last year they lost against Benetton very badly, also in a playoff match. So they would have a point to prove and show that they're not just one hit wonder, and also they have to back up the bank balance as well that they have. But yeah, it will be a tough game. But Leinster is flying high at the moment. They've just got so much power up front and at the back, and I mean, you can see what they did to Glasgow this last weekend. It's just the amount of tries scored in a quarterfinal. It's something that you rarely see. So yeah, it's going to be an awesome one. I think definitely hope the Bulls will pull it through. Yeah, obviously on form you would put the Leinster team to win the Bulls, but yeah, let's hope otherwise.
Yeah, I know for sure. So if you are online, just give us a nod, or just give us a thumbs up, or speak to us about what you think will happen in the United Rugby Championships coming up this weekend. Do you think the Stormers has got it to beat Ulster in Cape Town, or do you think the visitors will upset the home crowd in the Cape Town Stadium? And then also for all the Bull supporters, I'm pretty sure you're hoping that the Bulls will pull it through. So give us your opinion, send us your messages, and hopefully throughout this episode, we will try and throw some of your messages on screen. Tonight, it's all about speaking about sport agencies. We know out there's a lot of people that act in the interest of our young sports stars, of our professional sports stars. And we had an opportunity about a few weeks ago we went to one of these agents or sports agencies golf days, which was obviously held in aid of F7 Sports Management. But LB, obviously we heard a lot of good reviews, but also we got some insight into the importance of these sport agencies and how they look after the interest of players. We are just amateur sports supporters, and we don't necessarily know what happens behind the scenes, how these agents or mentors look after players, and how they make sure that the players' interests are always paramount and in the forefront. It was just an eye-opener for me.
No, exactly. And yeah, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. I mean, these are players that we back every weekend. We support them. We run, we run after them and make sure that they are, motivated and covered. But there's such a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that we don't know about. That player has a family. That player needs to make sure that his bills are paid. That player needs to make sure that his future is secured, etc., etc. So even though us as fans, we look up to these players and we see them, on the international stage or on the local fields, we obviously don't know what they go through. So what we've learned is in sports management and how they actually back these players up, give them the right advice, financial advice, make sure that there's any issues that you will hear stories of agents picking up the players' kids from schools, etc., because that's what they do. They are there to make sure that the player doesn't have to worry about a single thing, and all they need to be concerned about is what happens on the four corners of a field or soccer field or rugby field. So there's a lot that goes by, and it's amazing to hear the amount of effort that gets put in to these players' lives.
Nee, verseker. Voor ons inloer oor wat presies daar gebeur het by die golfdag. Die van julle wat weet, or those who follow the schoolboy sport industry, we know that players, like Barrick said, they've been earmarked very, very young nowadays. Yeah. Even as young as grade 10, they are looked at and they move from school to obviously position themselves to become professional sports stars, to become professional rugby players, or to become professional athletes. And then obviously we have these agents that would come in and say, I'm a recruiter, I'm a talent identificator, and I believe that this player would probably be in 3-4 years, might just enter the pro ranks. And then that player sign up to an agent, and that agent look after that player. But obviously there's a lot of things that go down. Like Barrick said, it's a financial side, it's a psychological side. It's everything to do with making sure that player is able to cope with the demands of the professional industry. And what we had at the F7 Sport Management Golf Day was not only a fundraiser, but also we had some insight from clients of F7 Sport Management as well. And we're going to have a chat with them later on in the episode. But we also had the founder, Shafiq Maton, sharing his thoughts about why he started the agency, and also why it is important for him to make sure that his clients, that their interests are always paramount. So let's just have a look at what went down at the F7 Sport Management Golf Day. You will see some familiar faces. Obviously, you will see some familiar faces. Some of the Tekkel presenters also featuring at the F7 Sport Management Golf Day. And then we will speak to some of the clients. Let's have a look at what went down at that historic inaugural F7 Sport Management Golf Day. Here we are.
So basis was vandag 'n poging om fondse in te samel vir F7 Sports Management, my baby as I would like to call it, 'n sportagentskap wat sportmanne en vroue verteenwoordig. Die doel is sodat ons soveel as moontlik jong manne kan help om in die eerste plek geleenthede te kry, professionele geleenthede, en daarna die volle pad saam met hulle te loop. Want daar is natuurlik verskillende aspekte van 'n professionele sportloopbaan. Sportmanne verdien natuurlik geld, van hulle verdien baie geld. So hoe jy dit bestuur, ons gee vir jou die tools, ons gee vir jou hulpbronne om dit te kan bestuur, om goeie besluite te kan maak, om goeie beleggings te kan maak. Want ons weet jong mense en jong manne wil nie belê in môre en oormôre nie. I also think that this generation is the generation that wants instant gratification. So if you played for a month, your first month you earn 40, 50, 60, whatever thousand rands a month, you want to spend it like never before. But with that comes responsibility, en dit is waar ek as 'n spelersagent inkom om jou die regte advies te gee, om my te omring met experts wat kan help in verskillende velde. Sou jy belê in 'n woonstel of in 'n motor? Vandag was 'n goeie dag, ons het groot name gehad, ons het 'n lekker diverse crowd ook gehad, en ek dink die feedback was oorweldigend goed. Dit was wonderlik om te sien hoe dat mense wat reeds uitgawes aangegaan het om hier te wees, ook al hande diep in hul sakke steek, en almal se sakke is nie altyd diep nie, maar hulle het gaan delf, en want hulle weet daar's 'n groter doel ter sprake. So baie dankie aan almal weer eens. So baie dankie aan Parel Golf Club. Baie dankie aan almal teenwoordig vandag. Dankie aan ons borge. Hulle is min, maar hulle is getrou. Ons sê baie dankie daarvoor. Ons het julle hulp nodig daar buite mense, sodat ons meer kan doen as wat ons huidiglik doen. So daai reis Friday 26 May 2023, want dit is ons volgende golfdag. ook hier by die Parel Golf Club. So al die rolspelers, te veel om te noem nou, maar baie dankie. Ek en ons waardeer dit opreg.
Ja, het was baie lekker om hier te wees by F7 Management, Sports Management se golfdag. Het is 'n baie goeie doel en ek dink is iets waarvoor ons almal kan op trots wees, veral ons wat hier in die Boland bly. Shafiq Meton is 'n ou wat baie insit in die gemeenskap en ook om ons sportmense wat miskien nie die kans kan kry om miskien hulle plek vol te staan onder die topspelers in die land wanneer dit kom by Varsity Cup of Currie Cup of selfs die United Rugby Championship of as ons praat van ander sporte soos cricket en sokker, laat daar 'n ou is in ons gemeenskap wat vir hulle daai kans kan gun om hulle talente te kan tentoonstel vir die land as ook om iets van hulle self te maak en ek dink dit is belangrik en met hy groei is ook ons rolmodelle in ons gemeenskappe. Hou aan met die goeie werk Shafiq en ons gaan vir jou bystaan deur dik en dun.
So we just finished off at the F7 Sports Management Golf Day in auction. What a wonderful occasion, an opportunity for a lot of people to be chatting to each other, guys rubbing shoulders with Springboks and ex-pro to former Proteas. It's been a fantastic day, great vibe. People were really enjoying themselves throughout the day. My co-presenter Heidi did a fantastic job and a lot of money was raised. Guys, keep watching what Shafiq does. He's going to make waves in the sports world. He's already done so and we see some big things coming for him and his F7 Sports Management team.
Ja, is great. Wat 'n wonderlike dag ja, Berry. Dit was net fantasties om te sien hoe mense uitgekom het om die baie belangrike poging van F7 Sports Management te ondersteun en wat 'n groot doel wat voor oë is en 'n groot taak vir Shafiq en sy span om te bereik.
Yeah, no, exactly. The players that he's brought to really train, we'll talk about them in a second. Speak very well of him and what he does. And that's what it's about. I think it's, there's a lot of players that come from, pretty disadvantaged backgrounds that would benefit from the kind of, knowledge that Shafiq carries. So it's great to see that he's looking out for players of, all colors, shapes, and sizes, so that these guys can get the best that they needed, that's needed for their careers.
Yeah, and I also found myself as the auctioneer, but ek was nou nie te bad toe as mense buitekant is wat 'n auctioneer soek. Vir die eerste maal, vir die tweede maal, vir die derde maal. Verkoop maar daai barre agter. Het ek 300, ek het 53 rand, ek het 53, ek het 400, ek het later kom sê dat 5000 rand. Dit is dit. En dan so verkoop van die man daar so met die groen trei in die agterkant van die oorskien. Vir die eerste maal daar so die. Hey, was al lekker om hy wonderlik goed die ouens te verkoop net.
Ek wil sê jy het gevra vir 'n drink, maar toe sit jy sommer 'n tyd dan op sy naam.
Ja, nee, hy is besig om 'n drink te order. Kyk as ek jou hand in die lug sien, as ek dink ek is besig om natuurlik 'n bietjie te loer daarso in jou beursie, dan verkoop ek sommer die goedjies aan jou. En dit is sommer lekker. Hy skrik vir hom uit sy drankie uit en haal sommer uit sy bloedgroep uit toe ek sê, ek verkoop sommer hy dinge aan jou vir 2000 rand.
Nou well done.
Maar ek dink die ouens they were all game and just wonderful to see how the guys just went out of their way to make the day a success. Surround yourself with these supporters and just the fans and the supporters that you do have. One thing I need to mention is Shafiq mentioned that the sponsors, he probably wanted some more sponsors and that is what we want the word to go out there. It was really a spectacular day. And to the sponsors on the course, I was on the course hitting a few balls myself as well. It didn't go too bad. But we did experience 'n lekker camaraderie. Daar was lekker nat gate, ons kon ons keer lekker nat hou en die ouens was baie tegemoetkomend. But Shafiq mentioned he needs more support and it's quite strange that a course as good as this, Shafiq from Paul Wellington looking at local players, making sure that those players that their interests are always at heart. That the sponsors don't come abroad. We know it's been a struggle with COVID and the business is very slow. but we need to support an initiative like this because it's through Safik and F7 Sport Management that we'll see the next Geo Applons, the next Vernon Philanders, the next Ashwell Princes, the next Herschel Keeps will come out of these structures, and it's important to support.
Yeah, no, absolutely. These players, and again, like we were looking at this weekend's game, just the amount of quality that would be in a game like that. These are, old players, young players that might have had opportunity or missed opportunity to play on that kind of stage, and hope, the hope was always going to be that there would be more, the Shafiqs around that would be able to, pick them and give them a start. And obviously with the amount of players that are on the local scene, rugby teams, talking, other sports as well, soccer and etc. There's so much talent out there, and these guys need to get all the support they can, just to make sure that they can have that boost, and that they can level the playing fields. I mean, it's you can just imagine the kind of stress that these guys have, just with regards to managing not only their bank balance, for example, but it's family life. It's your playing, your form. It's what you need on the field. It's your supplements. It's the psychological aspect that goes behind it as well. And all those need to be in check. I'm not saying that sports managers are psychologists, but they could be close.
Yeah, no, for sure. And let's get that comments going. Obviously, it is a big step up for players to move from the amateur banks, and then all of a sudden, down the line, you're all of a sudden in the professional mainstream. Things happen fast. All of a sudden, jy weet as die salaris die inkom, is dit nie geld wat jy gewoonlik sien of gewoond aan is nie. En dit is belangrik dat ons ouens so Safik en ander agente het. Ons het met een van sy kliënte gepraat. Ek het hierdie seun gesien speel vir EWK op vleuel, een van die vinnigste, mees vlugvoetigste spelers, en Safik het natuurlik vir hom raak gesien. Lundi Msengi is een van hy kliënte. Ons het 'n bietjie met hom gesels. Daar is 'n foto van hom vir die van julle wat hom kan onthou. Wat 'n wonderlike speler, en baie koerante het vroeg gesien dat hierdie ouetjie moontlik op 'n hoër vlak gaan speel. Ek verneem hy is daar so gebore ergens daar in die SVD area, iets sê vir my so Swellendam, en daar staan hy natuurlik met sy Pumas klere. F7 Sport Management het hom opgeraap, voorspraak gemaak vir hom by verskillende spanne, en hy speel nou kookwater rugby daar by die Pumas. Ons het 'n bietjie ingeloer by hom, Alberik, en ons het 'n bietjie met hom gesels en net sy indrukke gekry. Wat beteken 'n agentskap soos F7 Sports Management vir hom, en hoe help Safik en die agentskap vir hom om net te fokus op dit wat vir hom saak maak? Kom ons luister wat Lundi te sê gehad het.
Ek is oorspronklik van Willendam in die Weskaap. Ek speel op die oomblik my rugby by die Pumas in Nelspruit. Ek het Safik en F7 kom nou al van 2019 af, waar Safik my by klap rugby gesien het, gekontak en ek kan op 'n hoër vlak speel, en dan het Safik my in die universiteit ingekry van die geloof. Basies 'n goeie stepping stone, en dat studies baie belangrik is, en hy sit baie druk op met jou studies klaar maak, en by oomblik is op my 3de jaar van studies. Na 2 goeie Varsity seisoene het Safik vir my 'n goeie kontak gekry by Puma, waarmee ek gelukkig is, en ek glo net Safik is soos iemand waar hy altyd na toe kan gaan en hulp vra of raad vra, en ek is baie gelukkig om by F7 te wees, en ek dink ons gaan nog 'n baie lang pad stap, en die doelwitte wat ons uitgesit het, gaan ons definitief bereik in die toekoms.
Ja, Berk, is dit ongelooflik belangrik as jy 'n ouetjie soos hier met die potensiaal van Lundi. It's just important that someone just, acts on his behalf to make sure that the guy with his talent, that we know he can go all the way, that someone first and foremost identifies his talent, but then also makes sure that he gets his rightful opportunity. And that is what Lundi is talking about now. Safik and his team went out of their way to make sure that we are normal pundits. We are able now to experience the talent of a Lundi coming from Varsity Cup, now playing on the big stage.
I know, absolutely. I mean, as of to tournaments like the Varsity Cup, Craven Week, and those tournaments, and I highlight these players. I mean, these guys are going to be taking those initial steps, from there on to, to the developments and to the franchises, and hopefully one day, to the national team. But these are guys that need that break. They're the ones that made that one move into the first team and just needed somebody to back them. I think it's all about belief. I think it's all about trusting in their player capability and earning that trust. And I'm sure that player will feel the same way. I mean, you can just hear Deep talks about Shafiq. It's great to hear the fact that Shafiq did, urge him on to finish his studies, because the reality is also that after rugby, we know a lot of players that over the years that they maybe didn't do their studies. They ended up living the great life that we think that these sports stars live. But when you pick up an injury or you're out of form, all that gets lost. And the sad part is that there's no kind of planning towards the future to make sure that these guys can have something to fall back on in case. That is what a sports manager does, and that's fantastic to see.
No, for sure. And we also know that the sports sector, it's only as big as it is. Daar kan net soveel professionele sport se manne in die land wees. En nou gaan ons terug na rugby toe. Daar's net soveel plek vir soveel professionele rugby spelers. We have the best of the rugby players now playing in the URC. Some of our rugby players play abroad. And then obviously we have our Currie Cup. And then we have our different tiers of rugby, which includes the Varsity Cup, the Varsity Shield, our club rugby structures. But that is not highly paid competitions. The guys that get money to play, they can only be a certain amount. And therefore it's important, like for people like Shafiq, to also look abroad. They need to look abroad for opportunities, whether they can perhaps link up that player to an international market, perhaps in France, perhaps in Japan. And one such player, and we will speak to him now, is a guy called Franco Schutte. Also represented various teams at age group level, came through the ranks, was identified by Shafiq as a talent, and Shafiq obviously looked for an opportunity for this young player. Unfortunately, from the outset, there wasn't opportunities locally, and I believe that the discussion was, hey, Franco, hoe lyk dit? Dink jy wil 'n bietjie oorsee speel? En Franco het gesê, Shafiq, as daar geleentheid is, hoekom nie? En Berg, hy het die geleentheid met beide hande aangegryp en hy speel sy rugby trans oorsee. En ons het 'n bietjie gesels met hom en gehoor wat dink hy van die belangrikheid van 'n agentskap, maar ook sy indrukke en die rol wat Shafiq in sy loopbaan tot dusver gespeel het. Franco Schutte, onthou die naam, ons gaan op baie van hierdie mannetjie hoor.
Ek kom van Johannesburg af, as berglik in Rusland rugby vir JSM. My journey met Shafiq het later begin na die Varsity Cup, waar ek geleentheid het oorsee. En toe praat ek net 'n bietjie en hy vra my wat is my drome en aspirasies. Toe sê ek vir hom, toe van daar toe ons verhouding en ek het toe by hom geteken en toe later by die klub geteken, waar ek nou is vir 'n jaar. Gaan speel en 'n paar dae vir die geleentheid vir my gegee. En ja, dis nie die ding van Shafiq as agent, hy werk altyd hard en soek vir ons die beste geleenthede. En hy vra ook gereeld, hoe gaan dit met ons fisies en emosioneel, so hy vat altyd ekstra stap en tyd om seker te maak ons is okay en ons is gelukkig. So, my opinie, een van die beste agente. Dankie.
Hoorlik, ons vra net 'n bietjie om verskoning. Net 'n bietjie om verskoning. Ek weet daar is so 'n klein netwerkprobleempie. Miskien is daar 'n klein delay of sommige tye 'n bietjie van 'n lag op die lyn wat dit lyk of Franco se sein swak is. Dit is 'n opgeneemde video, maar ons het so 'n klein glitch op ons netwerk vanaand. Niks met Eskom te doen nie, dank Vader. Maar ons weet daar is so 'n klein glitch. Berg, is net weer eens, jy weet, 'n speler wat sy rugby oorsee speel and just speaking with great passion about the importance. If it wasn't for F7 sport management, perhaps he would have been, working as a just having a normal day job with the rugby talent still within him, and that is the sad part. A lot of our players, and we will speak about that next week as well, because we saw the derby between Westbank and Abbotsdale. A lot of our club rugby players, they don't necessarily get the opportunity to
Yeah.
go and play abroad and make money out of their talent. And that is what
Yes.
the role of sport agents, the role that they play in the lives of these players.
And let's put it, let's flip it on the other side again, Annie. I mean, we're speaking about the role that the sport managers play, but at the same time, there's a level of professionalism that comes along the play level. You wanna be one of the best in the world. You have to put in that sacrifice, and putting in hard hours, not necessarily by your nutrition, for example, but just by the fact that you are going to study. You want to have something to fall back on. Is that mindset that you need that. Players' career could be so short or just that long. So it's a professional attitude from both sides that's needed, and players are just by the fact that they play on these international stages, they carry themselves on and off the field. We hear so many times of instances where players, whether it's a bar fight or some kind of issue that happens off the field, it puts a damper. Not necessarily on the player, on the fans as well, because these guys get seen as role models, and you have to carry yourself with that, as well. So, I remember, I think it was the prop from the Storm was back in the day. I think he was Têkkel, if I'm not mistaken. And somebody can maybe jump in and tell me if I'm right or wrong. But I think he was a chartered accountant, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this guy played top level rugby. He was a chartered accountant, if I'm not mistaken. And also knowing that whatever may happen, you'll be backed up going forward. So it's that level of foresight that's needed from players, and also just a proper sports manager, of course.
No, for sure. And then obviously the term a lot of people use nowadays, and rightfully so, important to speak about the late bloomers, players that don't necessarily play in the SA schools, the SA Academy, the junior box, the Craven Week, the Varsity Cup. All of a sudden, at the age of 23, they become this absolute brilliant rugby player. I know a lot of players that didn't even necessarily play in the school's first side. All of a sudden, 2-3 years into their club career, you have this player, and you look at this player, and you all of a sudden say, this player has now found himself, and the talent then, it just comes to the fore. And unfortunately, and we need to speak about it, baie mense sê dit, en ons het dit eerstehands ervaar, en ons het dit ook gesien al. Baie mense sê, as jy nie in die Craven Week span is, as jy nie in die junior box span is, as jy nie in die SA skole span is, is dit baie moeilik om dan in die system in te kom. En dit is die waarheid. Dit is die waarheid, dus moet sê. Maar, dan het jy agente, F7 Sports Management, een van het, wat kan sê, listen, op die ouderdom van 23, as ek vir jou in die Varsity Cup sien, of ek sien vir jou by Roses United, of ek sien vir jou by Hamilton's rugby speel, is het nog altyd moontlik. Gio Aplon is een van die ouens. Hy het nie noodwendig in die verteenwoordigende spanne gespeel nie. Ek dink sy storie is so fantasties, dat hy eintlik begin rugby speel op Kosses. By die Universiteit Stellenbosch. Hy raak 'n 7 springbok, hy raak 'n Storme, hy raak 'n springbok. En dit is die rol wat agentskappe ook speel, is om te sê, if you didn't make the side at schoolboy level, it's not all lost. There's someone looking out for you, and hopefully you can still enter the professional scene.
100%. I mean, we could just, a perfect example of that is I just watched a documentary on Makazole Mpimpi recently. I mean, this guy never went through any ranks. He never did the whole, Craven Week, up into, all the other channels that was available to him. And he came through, and it was hard work. And then obviously, whether it was a scout or a sports manager, that noticed these capabilities on the field. So there's luck that goes with it, I would assume. But I think if you carry yourself and put the hard work in, somebody has to take note. I mean, somebody is always, looking with the scouts on the fields and across the country. They're always looking. So hard work goes hand in hand with that. I just, and that's up to the Proteas this evening. They obviously had a fantastic win over India. And Rassie van der Dussen, I think Rassie started playing top international cricket. I think the age of 32. I might be wrong, guys. Can maybe just chip in and let me know.
30 odd.
30 odd. I mean, that's a very late bloomer, and he played a massive role this evening in this evening's game against India. So yes, you have the late bloomers, and it's whether it's your time or not your time. There's only so, like you mentioned, only so much players that can make that top tier of rugby. But it comes with a lot of hard work, and hopefully, somebody that will see you and pick you up out of that batch.
No, for sure. For sure. We spoke about the Stormers and their participation in the URC. And if you are a Western Province and Stormers supporter, you would probably recognize this
Oh,
young
sorry,
fellow. Yeah.
Sorry, Annie. Sorry. Nee, sorry, ek het net verkeerd. Ek gesê Stormers en jammer.
Yeah, so if you are a Stormers or Western Province supporter, you would probably recognize the next player. He had a bit of a shaky start at the international level, and there were people that really asked questions, and then he started playing very, very well for the Western Province franchise. We all know that he moved abroad, and he's also a client of F7 Sport Management. We caught up with one of the I would say most charismatic players out there, but not a big talker, but what a fly off, Abner van Reenen, also one of those players that Safik signed up and said, listen, I want to make sure that you get the fair opportunities that you deserve, and I will look after your interests. We spoke to Abner. He is in South Africa for a brief vacation. He is in South Africa as we speak for a few days, visiting family and friends and making sure that he just gets some sunlight before he heads out abroad again. We spoke to Abner van Reenen, asking him, listen, tell us about the role F7 Sport Management played in your career. And this is what he had to say.
Speel voor de Vigo, rugby theater. Ja, Safik is een goede mens. Kijk altijd uit voor de spelers. Probeer je beste, als je laatste spelers eerste, probeer je beste deals. Krijg voor zijn spelers. En ja, hij is net een goede agent. En ik laat maar mijn agent.
Ja, definitief. Ja, baie beskeie ou ja, Berik, baie rustige ou toe ons om hom gesels het, maar hy praat ook met baie lof van Safik en mens kan net sien, jy weet die waardering wat hulle ou het soos Safik en die rol wat hy net weer in so tolk in Abner se loopbaan.
Yeah, no, I mean, we knew what he did at the Stormers. He was a young up-and-coming player, and he got opportunity. You can't deny when the player gets opportunity overseas. You grab it. Whether it's local or whether it's a big franchise. Soos hulle sê, jy that far. We know so many stories of players that come back from overseas. And they actually come back to South Africa and they play fantastic rugby. So yeah, it's wish the best for him. I mean, we really would like to see him back in Stormers country again. Sorry, ek gaan my net weer aan oor die Stormers. Sorry, hy nie. Sharks is anyway. Daai storie vir daai.
Ja, nee, verseker.
Ek remind my net vir jou. Sê maar net. Anyway.
Ja, nee. Definitief. Ons moet krediet gee waar we must give credit is due. And we're going to support the Stormers this coming weekend. We hope that they really do it. But so too, just remember all of those players playing for the Stormers, they started somewhere and they have an agent looking after their interests, making sure that they are always, I would not necessarily look at their physique, but there's a lot of things behind the scenes. Whether the player needs to make an appearance somewhere or need to speak to the Têkkel Talk Show. We never spoke to any of these players. We spoke through Safik, asking Safik to get a clip. So it's all of those PR and public relation initiatives, communication between a club and another club if they want to transfer or move from one club to another. So when you look at the rugby game again, please look with appreciation as to say, this player comes from somewhere, someone spotted this player somewhere and brought him to the screen where we can see these players now at test level or in a URC semi-final. It's a lot of things go into the preparation of that player to be the athlete that we see Saturday in and Saturday out.
No, exactly. And if you listen to what Abner just said, what he mentioned about Safik getting the deal, these are what the sports managers do. They need to be negotiators. So they need to be able to to know the landscape, number one, but also be able to walk into a boardroom of a franchise or any club and listen, I've got this way that will fit you perfectly, and you'll be able to sell their product. And with that said, I mean, maybe you should get Shafiq or any other sports managers out there that's maybe watching the show tonight to be on the show, to come on the show and tell us what does it take to become a sports manager. You might have a flair for, you might love soccer or cricket or rugby or any other sports in South Africa, but you might not be able to play it, but you have the passion for it, and you might be able to want to plow in on a different way with an administrative or on a point, and maybe we should get them and find out what does it take for a sports manager to actually do what they do. Besides, we've heard now already the amount of effort that a guy like Shafiq puts behind the scenes, and finding out what the actual courses that they need to go through. That's something that would be interested to those players, those people that won't necessarily play rugby but love the sport of rugby. So yeah.
Accredited sport agents or accredited sport managers. Clayton Smith, what I need to say, keep up the good work, F7. There's some of the comments coming through. Gus Witboy just saying, we need new blood. The scene is set for a year for fresh talent. Obviously, I wil net weet wie is ons twee se agent? Ja, ons het ook agente agter die skerms. You can book us. We have agents that will speak on our behalf and make sure that our interests are also paramount and on the forefront. But accredited is the word, Albert. Accredited. We all have these parents and school principals and sport pundits doing the talk and speaking on behalf of players. What we do have in F7 Sport Management and Shafiq is an accredited sport agent listed on various accredited lists, and he can give accredited, he can act, legally act on behalf of sport athletes, and that is the one thing important thing that you've mentioned. You need to be accredited. There's a certain route and a career path that you need to follow to be accredited sport agent or sport manager, and perhaps in the future episodes we can get somebody from SA Rugby or someone from one of the accredited bodies to speak to us, and so that we can learn, and maybe the listeners out there can also learn what it takes to be accredited and recognized sport agent in South Africa.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. I mean, you can't just put your hand up and say, no, I'll manage you, because you're dealing with people's livelihoods, and that's the important thing that goes behind everything that they do, is the fact that they really care about these players. It's no use putting your hand up saying, I can manage you. You have so many international stars. I can't think of anybody specifically now, but where they would change from their dad or their mother, or was maybe their manager, and then they change to a professional person. And there's a reason for that. I mean, you could have, with all due respect, your mom or dad could help you manage, you can put you on the right path. And that next level can just be taken further by an accredited sports manager that will take you to the next level that's needed.
No, for sure. And for the soccer lovers out there, the football lovers, we're going into that transfer window season where you hear this player moving from one club, and this is the opening bid, and this is the player's personal terms, and he wants this, en my vrou moet daar werk, en my kinders moet daar skool gaan. As ek na hierdie klub gaan, wil ek in hierdie kar bly, en ek wil in die son sit, en ek wil daar onder daai boompie. Hy sê, it's all the agents' work to make sure that player, whatever he asks, that player speaks to his agent, and that agent goes to a table to negotiate on that. And so once you look at this transfer windows and you hear all of the transfer bids, think about it for 1 second. Someone behind the scene is doing the talking. As jy die speler wat daar sit en sê, ek wil 10 rand hê, ek wil 20 rand hê. Die player sit sy demands op die tafel, en daar's 'n boodskappertjie wat dan ingaan en sê, luister, dit is wat my speler werd is. Dit is wat ek dink my speler nodig het om op die beste vlak te functioneer. So wat is dit wat jy op die tafel kan sit? En nog baie goeie eksempel van dit is wat daar in die voetbal arena gebeur, Berry. Dit op 'n ander level wanneer ons die getalle sien waarmee daai manne speel per week. Dan dink jy, is dit nie per jaar nie, nee, dis die man per week. Dis 'n baie goeie negotiator. Ek wens ek het plek vir so 'n agent gehad, né? Of ek môre weg te gaan.
Nou, exactly. Kyk, wat hy minute dien per uur is klaar genoeg al, man. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what those bands. They're the guys that's doing all those negotiations. And I think, with that, like we mentioned earlier, a lot of things has to go right for you in your career. Whether it's, by chance you get noticed, whether it's by chance you end up getting into a rugby school, whether it's by chance you get, selected for the first team, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot of things that can go with for you and go against you. But with that said, a sports manager with if you're alongside, you would be able to then just lift you, give you that edge, tell you how to chin up when you're down, how to pick up your shoulders when you're not doing so good in the field, and that's the kind of people that you need behind you. And and with that said, I mean your family to an extent and your circle of friends would probably play that kind of role as well. Give you that comfort, or not comfort necessarily, but the support you need. To overcome those dark periods. But yeah, if anybody's seen Jerry Maguire, please check it out. I think a lot is said in how the sports world is run through that movie.
No, for sure. We just want to say to F7 Sport Management, Safik Baton, keep up the good work. Thank you for the invitation, first and foremost, to play in your golf day. Thanks for inviting us to your auction, making us part of that brilliant inaugural golf day. And you spoke about May 2023. Gaat die manne weer 'n bietjie stokke swaai daar op Parel Bosselmeer, en ons gaan definitief daar wees om te ondersteun. Ons as 'n borgers aan buitekant wat met Safik in kontak wil kom, drop vir ons 'n e-mail of search dit daar op Google F7 Sports Management. Gaan in sy website in en maak seker jy maak kontak met hom, gesels 'n bietjie met hom. En as daar mense is wat moontlik vir hom wil help om sy doelwitte as 'n sportagent daar in die mooie Wynland area, maar ook nasionaal te bereik, maak kontak met Safik en F7 Sport Management. LB, dit was 'n ongelooflike voorreg om met Safik te gesels, en ons hoop en ons wens vir hom alle voorspoed toe. Is maar soos ons slogan sê nie, we encourage a culture of recognition and we recognize Safik for the good work.
Yeah.
Some of these players are highly paid players, but if you go onto his website, you would realize that he also acts on behalf of players that is, they are still semi-pro or amateur. And those players are also listed. Divan's is also giving a shout out there to F7. And it's not the agent that only go for the high hanging fruits. It's also the player that takes a player right at the bottom. If he believes that this player's got what it takes, he picks that player up right at the bottom and aspire to get that player right to the top. And that is what makes F7 Sport Management slightly different from all of the other agents out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just listen to the players, that's testament to he's just not, taking them halfway and then letting go. Then he's making sure he's in contact with his players, whether they're playing Russia or wherever. He's still in contact, shows, that level of commitment that he has towards them, making sure that they're happy, and making sure that they are properly sorted, even though he's thousands of miles away from them. So yeah, it's going to be, I think, we wish him all the best, and may he go from strength to strength.
No, for sure. 40 minutes has flown by. It's the end of another episode. We see the comments about the Abbotsdale Westbank game. Julle is 'n week te vroeg. Julle is 'n week te vroeg. Volgende week gesels ons oor daai historiese derby. Natuurlik het ons 'n bietjie tyd nodig om 'n hele dag vanaf derde span tot en met die braai by Furlow se huis te kondens in 'n 40 minute episode. Ons het daai program gekondens, ons het gepraat met die man van die wedstryde. So julle is 'n week te vroeg. Ek sien I just see the traffic there on some of our social media pages. Hulle wil weet, waar is die derby? Ons het julle gesien daar in hulle volle glorie. Volgende week 8:00 praat ons rugby. Subscribe @Tekkel Chat. Ons is op YouTube elke week. Ons gaan nou net op YouTube ons live shows beeld sien, maar ons is op Facebook @Tekkel Chat. Op YouTube, op Facebook, ons is op Twitter, gesels met ons.
Ja.
Ons het 'n WhatsApp lyn, jy kan met ons gesels op WhatsApp ook. As jy dink ons moet iemand kom besoek, 'n derby kom besoek, of jy het 'n bietjie van 'n kommentaar, stuur vir ons sommer 'n video, daar is ons. 0652188511, 8511. Save hom daar op jou WhatsApp konteks en gesels met ons. Ons reply graag. Ja, Berry, het was weer lekker om met jou te gesels. So ek jy weet 'n bietjie laat opgekom met jou netwerkprobleme, maar ons is deur en weer eens op baie lekker show. Groete daar vir die mense daar in die Kaapse Skiereiland en vir almal aanlyn baie dankie dat julle ingetune het. Tot volgende weekend. Soos ek sê, @Tekkel Chat. Check dit uit op YouTube, loer 'n bietjie in op Facebook en op Twitter. Jalbi, volgende week 8uur maak ons weer so. Groete tot dan. Cheers.